Walk.
Phil stood at the edge of the dive bar's pool table, his black jeans dusted with cigarette ash, his boots planted like anchors. The overhead light flickered, casting an eerie glow on his shaved head, sweat glistening from the heat of the crowded room. The stale beer and cheap cologne in the air made his stomach turn. Not because of the scent, he was used to filth, but because of the people surrounding him, fake friends, every single one of them. He had known for a while, the whispers when he wasn't around, the forced laughs that turned into snickers the moment he walked away, the empty words they threw at him, pretending they had his back. It had been brewing inside him like a poison, and tonight he had finally reached his boiling point. "You think I don't know?" His voice cut through the bar like a razor-sharp edge. The group around him, Rick, Sammy, Doug, and the rest of the pack, froze. They exchanged glances, pretending to be clueless, feigning innocence. Rick, the self-proclaimed leader, had his arms crossed, leaning against the jukebox, trying to play it cool. "What are you talking about, man?" Rick scoffed, taking a swig of his beer. "We're just hanging out." Phil chuckled, but there was no humor in it. He took a step forward, towering over Doug, the weakest of the bunch, who instantly shrank under Phil's glare. "Oh yeah, just hanging out? That's what you call talking trash behind my back?" Sammy, always the peacemaker, raised his hands.
Come on, Phil. You're being dramatic. Nobody's talking trash.
Phil grabbed a pool cue and broke it in half with ease, the loud crack making half the bar turn their heads. He tossed the broken pieces aside. "I've heard it all, every single word. You think I don't notice when you treat me like an afterthought? Like some disposable piece of trash?" He jabbed a finger at Rick. "You, laughing at me the second I walk out the door, calling me a joke. And the rest of you," his eyes swept over the group, "standing there, letting it happen, nodding along, acting like you're my friends." Doug stammered. "It's not like that, man." Phil sneered. "Oh, it's exactly like that." He paced, fists clenched, muscles tensing in his forearms. "Loyalty means something to me. Respect means something. But you," he shook his head, "you don't know what respect is." Rick sighed, rolling his eyes. "Phil, you're losing it. We're just busting balls. You're taking everything too seriously." Phil laughed again, dark and bitter. "Oh, I'm taking it too seriously." He leaned in close, nose to nose with Rick. "I worked my tail off for you. I've stood up for you, defended you, had your back every single time, and all I get in return is disrespect?" Rick scoffed but didn't answer. Phil exhaled sharply. "That's what I thought." The silence stretched between them, thick as smoke. He could feel the weight of the entire bar watching, waiting for what would happen next. But he didn't care. He was done. Done with all of them. "You don't deserve to be in my circle." His voice was low but seething with fury. "You don't deserve my trust, my friendship." He took a step back, shaking his head. "I don't need people like you dragging me down. So, do me a favor." He pointed to the door. "Walk." Rick smirked, shaking his head. "You're serious?" Phil didn't even blink. "Get out of my sight." Sammy looked between them, hesitating, like he wanted to salvage whatever was left. "Phil!" Phil's glare shut him up. "You too, Sammy. You're just as bad. All of you." For a moment, no one moved. Then Doug was the first to step back, hands raised like he wanted no part of this. He mumbled something under his breath before making his way toward the door. Sammy followed, slower, hesitant, but Phil could see it in his eyes. He knew he had been caught. He had no defense. Rick lingered the longest, as if trying to prove something, trying to stand his ground. But even he knew he wasn't winning this one. He scoffed, muttered, "Whatever, man," and turned on his heel. One by one, they left. Phil stood there, breathing heavy, his muscles tense. The silence they left in their wake was the most satisfying thing he had ever heard. The bartender, an older guy with a weathered face, walked over and slid a fresh beer toward him. "On the house," he said, nodding with approval. "Not every day a man cuts the dead weight." Phil took the beer, took a slow sip, then set it down with a smirk. Damn right. He felt lighter, free. They went to hell, and that was exactly where they belonged.